you're sitting down with your 5-star son, regardless of position, and Nick Saban walks into your living room and you serve him the oatmeal Little Debbie cookies, and then someone else comes in right behind Nick Saban, maybe the next day, and he sits down and you invite him in to recruit your son. If you're that coach, what do you tell that recruit? What do you counter? What do you rebuttal Nick Saban with? He just walked out. What are you going to say that he didn't already say in what he promised you? Martin, what would you tell the recruit if you're recruiting against Nick Saban?
Well, Ryan, I think the first thing you have to do is just be honest with the kids. Let them know up front you're not Nick Saban. You're not the University of Alabama program, but you are a D1 program, and you present an opportunity that very few people have the opportunity to play. I mean, to take advantage of. And the selling tool is, your school, what you offer as a person. And then, of course, the big thing, of course, what we're talking about right now is him putting people in the league. And that's where you say it is impressive what Nick Saban has done. And the fact that he's had 5 years in a row where he sent 9 or more players to the league. But there are 200, even with his success that he's had, even the success he had this year, there's 249 other spots to get drafted. If you come to my school, I can't promise you that it'll be 10 in the year that you go out, but I can promise you that I will give you every tool, every opportunity, and every chance to use your skill set and develop you into a player that can be one of those 259 guys that will be drafted.
Well, and it just kind of gives you an example. I'm not picking on Auburn here for a minute, but I am picking on Auburn. When you look at a poster that they put out earlier today, and you look at Alabama, and they're putting out posters of draft picks and the number of money that these guys have all made, and it's pretty crazy when you look at the amount of money that this NFL draft class will make. When you look at the guaranteed salaries, and these are already in terms of slotted picks and the number of money that you get. But Auburn put out a tweet. When you look at Friend, the offense coach at the University of Alabama, Will Friend. Excuse me, I played at the University of Alabama, but he's the offensive line coach. You go to Mike Bobo, offensive coordinator. You go to Cadillac Williams, somebody we're very familiar with here. But you go through their staff, and this is the billboard that they put in: 152 combined years of coaching experience, 30 collective conference championships, 82 combined bowl games coached. And they list the players down on the bottom, and there's not one player from Auburn. They just list the players that their coaches have been involved with in the NFL, and there's not one guy from Auburn. It's not one guy who played at Auburn. Not one guy. They've got guys like Matthew Stafford, A.J. Green. You go through Kellen Moore, which played at Boise State, Michael Gallup, who played at Ohio State, Richard Sherman, Isaiah Wynn, Todd Gurley, Vander Esch out of Dallas, a linebacker, played at Boise State. It's like not one guy. So you're having to counter saying that, well, we did this at other places and we'll do it here. That's the way that they're countering what you and I are talking about.
Yeah, and really, Ryan, that's about all the message you can do. You think about kudos to a young man. I want to give a shout out to Seth Williams, Ryan, first ever kid to be drafted that played at Bryant High School, first one ever to make it at that level. So kudos to him. Kudos to Bryant High School, for Paul W. Bryant High School, for that accomplishment. But Ryan, think about the year he came out, and he was an Auburn wide receiver who 4 guys signed at Alabama that same year, or 3 guys, and he would have been the 4th guy. And of course, then Waddle signed the next year, right? Something like that.
Yeah, you're right. You're dead on. I think I know where you're going.
And I mean, you now moving forward. I mean, Nick Saban's gonna get to pick his skill positions. He's gonna get to pick every but Auburn, the best that they had, and kudos to the young man. But that's the best that they had to offer at that position in an offensive game. It's an offensive minded game, and Nick Saban put 4 wide receivers in the league in pretty much in one calendar season. I mean, one calendar year, 2 football seasons.
Well, and this is hard to say, Martin. I don't want it to walk away people saying, well, he's taking a shot at Seth Williams, because I'm not.
No, I'm not. I'm not either.
But when you look at, let's say Seth Williams ends up in a crimson uniform, I would bet you every money I have that in an account, in a checking account, that Seth Williams would have been taken higher than round 6.
Seth Williams would have been a first or second round draft pick at Alabama.
He would have been. So that's the decision that these kids are making. They either go, well, I'll go and I'll fight my way out of that depth chart in Tuscaloosa, or I'll go and I'll get paid this at another school.
Yeah, Seth Williams would have been a first round draft pick or second round at worst case had he came to Alabama, because he would have been taught more than he you can't teach what he has: size, athletic ability, etc. How to work within a route system, and that's not something they did at Auburn under Gus Malzahn. And you even heard him mention that before about developing the route tree. Well, that hurt those Auburn guys, and that's the same thing that hurt what his name, Schwartz, as well.
Well, Martin, you've been talking about route trees at Auburn for as long as I can remember. I mean, you go back. I mean, you were pointing this out at the early steps of what Gus's tenure there at Auburn. You kept saying this, that his route trees are elementary.
Right.
And that was something that you pointed out for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, and if people are listening and don't really know what that means, is that's what Homer Smith taught us when we played way back in the late 80s, early 90s. And he believes that if you run your routes correctly, there are windows within a zone, if they're in a zone, that you can know which zones are going to be open. And if one guy covers differently than what you expect, then the read just goes to the next window, and so on and so forth. Or in man, you run enough routes where guys are having to think about basketball when you run pick and rolls and things like that, Ryan, and the defense has to figure out, am I going to, in basketball, they have to figure out, am I going to go underneath the pick? Am I going to go over it? Am I going to fight through it? And you can create your routes. And that's what Sarkisian, you go back and look, man, Sarkisian would run routes, run plays, and Kiffin did it as well. They would run a play on this series, Ryan, to get a reaction from the defense, and then call the play the next series that they were really setting up. How many times have we seen Kiffin hold up his hand on the sideline at Alabama because he knew when he saw the defense, he made the adjustment to the play call, he knew how they were going to react? That was because his route trees were built in such a way that the next time they would start on a crossing route that went to a go route, slant and go, a sluggo, as you hear people say a lot. But he run that slant over and over and over till he got that DB jumping on it. And then the next time he knew that when he called it, he could just make one little tweak to that route and knew that guy was going to jump it. So Auburn just didn't have that. That's why they had so many big wide receivers, because a lot of his routes and completions depend on 50-50 balls.
Martin, you and I have spoke about this in the past. I'm not sure that we spoke about this recently, but I go back to the NFL draft, and maybe I did. Maybe I brought this up last Friday with you and I talking. But we talk a lot about name, image, and likeness. Alabama has launched a big committee talking about the advantage, and I think they're going to do a great job of trying to find a way to create this name, image, and likeness. I still have doubts if the NCAA can govern all this, because I think it really opens up a recruiting can of worms that they can't even control what's happening right now. You add another pressure to them, and that's not a reason not to do it, but it's a lot of management when you look at the NCAA and how you can invite that. But let's put that on the side for just a couple of seconds here. When you're trying to look at Dylan Moses, I cannot get this out of my head. Why we don't we this is the problem with the NCAA that I'm trying to explain. It's so mixed up. Well, you got the NBA doing this, you got the NFL doing this, you got Major League Baseball drafting players here. They're going after your talent, and there's all these different rules that are just not they're not equal when we talk about the way that they govern it. NBA players, we got Alabama players right now that are going out. Primo, one of those guys, looking out and trying to see, well, where am I evaluated at? And then a month out, you make the decision. I'm not sure, maybe it's 3 weeks out. You make the decision to come back. I've said it multiple times. If you really care about these student athletes, do things that they can financially benefit from, not a free hot dog and a Coke for doing an autograph signing. Allow these guys to come back. Dylan Moses comes back. He proves that he's healthy. I can promise you he's at least drafted in 2022.
Yes, I think so, Ron. But I think it's the NCAA and the NFL. Think about the NFL right now, Ryan. Could you imagine if you were the Atlanta Braves and you had a Nick Saban coaching your minor league team?
Great point.
I mean, your AAA team is coached by Nick Saban. That's what the NFL has. Why would they mess with that? They're going to do everything they can to keep everything status quo, keep players in college longer, keep them there. Now, the one thing that I do not understand that I don't get why they don't push or on and the NCAA get on board with it is the a little longer test run to see. I think if a kid, if they were to adjust it to me, as long as the kid made a decision about coming back before spring practice started, and I'm not even saying up that close to the draft, but you think the Alabama players literally played their last game and the following week, for the most part, they've had to make a decision, right? They're not even getting the benefit like a lot of the other schools.
Right. And it's one that I really haven't thought about, but it's true. I mean, they don't get that soak in time. I mean, sometimes it's 24 to 48 hours. They got to flip and make a decision.
Yes, and so you have these other schools that's been finished playing since December, and maybe they had a few weeks, but most of them have had a significant amount of time where they didn't have, either they had a game that didn't matter in terms of the bowl games, because whatever people say, the bowl games are, I like them because it gives a reward, but they're slowly losing value. But give these players and young men a chance to talk for more than a week. Give them up until end of February to go through some process. Let them go through some testing. Expand people who can come to combine, and give them a look see and see where they match up and what they're saying, because what the college doctors tell them versus what the NFL doctors. Think about the clout of the NFL doctors, Ryan. That has nothing to do with whether you really can play or not. Drew Brees, right? Drew Brees is a classic example of a guy who not only played, was able to play after a surgery. He went on to have a Hall of Fame career. But I'm not saying that Dylan Moses won't, but a doctor had the potential to have ruined Drew Brees' Hall of Fame career. If what if the Saints guy had said the same thing? And that's where Dylan Moses found himself with the medical of. But if he could have, as you said, tested it, oh man, we don't even have you on our draft board. And then he got a chance to come back. Now all of a sudden you're looking at, it helps the college game because you have a Dylan Moses back in college. It helps Dylan Moses because he has a chance to rehab or get better. Let me throw a question to you, Ryan, as we go to break. You talk about, you left me with one of those questions. Does the Dylan Moses saga of a kid who, after his sophomore year, you will not find a single analyst that would not have had him projected as a first-round pick? Okay?
Oh, I know where you're going.
Okay.
Oh, don't do it. Don't do it to me, Martin.
Sophomore year. And he has to come back and play his junior, have to come back and play. Will the fact of his results, and this year, I think it was 6 or 7 guys, Ryan, in the first round this year that did not play college football last year. Will that combination of his fall in the draft, the success of those who did not play last year, some of them only having 1 year of film, sit out, and the name, image, and likeness, will we see sophomores of the caliber of Dylan Moses and Jadeveon Clowney and guys like that, Fournettes of the world, will we see them start setting out their junior years and getting ready for the NFL draft?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And well, let's come back and we'll talk about that. That's a great question. It's one that really I haven't thought about. But, I guess that's why we do the brainstorming session that we call Alabama Tradition, the past, present, future of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Have you wanted to speak a new language, but thought it would be too difficult? Then try Babbel. Babbel starts by teaching you words and phrases that gradually get more complex. Soon, you're practicing short conversations. So in 15 minutes a day, you'll be speaking a new language in a few weeks. Babbel is built around real life. It teaches you practical conversations that you will actually use. Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free. Just go to Babbel.com today. That's Babbel.com.
Do you feel vibrations when you step on your brake pedal? Is it taking you too long to come to a complete stop? Well, then it just might be time to replace your brakes. Don't wait for brake failure to cause an accident. Replace your brakes with high-quality brakes from Northport Auto Supply. Northport Auto Supply has the area's largest inventory of brakes in stock and will help you find the brakes that are best for your car. Northport Auto Supply. Why go anywhere else?
Tuscaloosa Tire and Service, they've got the big brands you know and trust. Goodyear, Firestone, Bridgestone, Cooper, and they can finance for you as well. When you need routine maintenance and alignment, a tune-up, whatever it is, belts, hoses, just basic stuff, or when you don't know what's wrong with your car, truck, or SUV, make it Tuscaloosa Tire and Service. They're dependable, they're trustworthy. That's why they've lasted for over 36 years. Skyland Boulevard, McFarland Boulevard East in Northport on Lurleen Wallace Boulevard. Check out the website, TuscaloosaTireandService.com.
Before the action begins, make sure your bets are in. Every hit.
This ball is crushed.
Every
Hey,
point.
Martin.
Said.
The host of the game, Ryan Fowler, and the host of the Martin Houston Show, Martin Houston, have combined to offer a show filled with in-depth analysis of Alabama football and more. Alabama Tradition broadcasts live on Tide 100.9 every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. and is available live and on playback on numerous affiliates around the Southeast. Check out alabamatradition.com for a list of affiliates, as well as other great content.
Country music singers have always been a real close family. But lately, some of my kinfolks have this.
So Twang Tuesday is continuing. Twang Tuesday. We do it from 2 until 6. And I don't guess we got the message that it ends at 6. But Brian said it does not end at 6.
Never ends.
This is like Bryant's day.
Brian, do I get a vote?
Yeah, Mark gets a vote. I mean, he's at least got a third of this.
Absolutely.
Mark, how would you vote?
I'm okay, I guess. I don't really have a preference for music other than gospel music, so contemporary Christian music. So I guess I guess I can deal with it. What was that? Hank about to ask me, why do I go smoke? Huh?
You know, and then the crazy part of that song is it's actually catchy. Like it's catchy.
Yeah.
So it's something that no and
I'm sorry.
neither one of us drink or neither one of us smoke.
That's right.
It's, hey, but it got us in and out of the break.
Yeah, it did.
But people are listening are just rolling. But in the final couple of minutes, I let that one marinate a little bit. And Martin, I'll take it even a step further because I want to answer your question. You asked me if it would increase more people sitting out, and I think the answer is yes.
Let me give you one other piece of information before you do that.
Okay.
No one talked about this. I can't remember exactly how you say his name. For your listeners in the whole world, my COVID brain effect is I have a hard time remembering names now. So hopefully that'll eventually get better. But
are you kidding? Or are you?
No, I'm serious. I'm very, very serious. I mean, it's really bad and frustrating, especially doing radio where you have to remember all these guys from all these places and eras. But the young man that played for Miami this year. He set out. His mom was a nurse, Rosia or something like that is his name. And his mom was a nurse, and he set out because, Miami and Florida was an epicenter of COVID. And he made the statement, I was so glad that mom was able to set out because I was able to get marketing deals. And then they just went away from it and went back to talking. Did you hear what I said? He was a young man. He was a 32nd pick of the draft from Miami. And he literally said he spent this past year making enough money that his RN mother at the Miami hospital there was able to take the year off because he was able to make money. So add that to what I asked you before the break.
I mean, to comprehend, but I mean, when you do look at this, and I mean, we haven't really even spent that much time on name, image, and likeness, but I mean, you talk about endorsements, you tie all this together. When you look at it and the incentive to be there, I'll tell you what else that it almost sets up with what you asked me to hurt places like Alabama, because I've often countered this message of Alabama players play injured. Alabama players play injured. No, they don't. They know if they set down that the fifth, the second string guy behind him is a fifth, 5-star. The third string guy is a 4-star. And if I give him the opportunity, I may never see the play field again. And so it's kind of an incentive to go, I'm going to play through this. If you're in a place like Auburn or Tennessee or Mississippi State or somewhere else, you're like, hey, man, I keep going. Or I'll set it out, and I know that my job will be there when I come back. So when you look at Dylan Moses, to go back, I don't want it to, but I think it will happen.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be people that are going to be whispering. And unfortunately, they get a lot of bad advice. And I think, kids get bad advice when they come out.
Well, right before this, though, we talked about it. We talked about it that it was a possibility, right? We talked. See, I'm telling you, I'm bad with names. A young man played at UCLA, was a linebacker, running back, got injured. Jack, I think was his name. He got hurt early on in the season. He didn't play a whole season. The rest of the season, he just worked out. We saw, a young man from Ohio State last year, him and his brother. I told you, man, I'm not joking about the name thing. It's really crazy. You know what I'm talking about?
So are you talking 2021 or 2020? 2020.
2020. His brother plays for the Chargers. The other guy, he had the abdominal injury from Ohio State.
Oh, so I thought you were talking about UCLA. I was looking.
No, UCLA was the Jack kid. He was, I think his last name was Jack. And then he had the defensive end, the brothers. The brother plays for the Chargers. He plays for the fourth.
Bosa. Yeah, Bosa.
Bosa.
Yeah, right.
He didn't come back. Well, all of those guys had started their season, their junior season, and got hurt. We had not had an example of a guy just not playing. Okay? Two of the top 10 players, two of the top 7 players in the NFL draft, Ryan, did not play. One guy, the number 5 pick, had 1 year of really good film. Jamar Chase. But Burrow. And he gets drafted number 5. Waddle did not play most of the season and goes in front of his teammate, Heisman Trophy winning, greatest wide receiver season ever, potentially, and the best one in 30 years. The guy who didn't play the rest of the season went in front of him. So I just think you're setting the stage. And then when they hear that they can make money, Ryan, and the fact that they could be out, they said, I saw one thing that they said, if the name, image, and likeness thing had passed when Tua was a senior or junior, that he would have made over $400,000 on his social media account. Just projecting. Wow. And that was without him working it, Ryan. That's without this advantage or whatever that Alabama is getting ready to start and launch. It's going to teach them how to do it. Ryan, think about this. I was at Kobe's and a young lady was there, and she had 182,000 followers. And and we were sitting there eating, and she put out her camera, and while we were waiting, she recorded a video of her scratching off lottery tickets, and people were paying for that. So I don't know that it's going to hurt the Alabamas of the world, Ryan, because it's about name and notoriety.
Well, and I just understand that because so that happened here in Tuscaloosa.
What I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. This student, she was a senior at the university, no athlete at all. She was just a everyday student.
She made people watching her on a video. Wow.
On YouTube, yes. Literally, she just.
Business.
Yeah, she literally just makes a video of her scratching off, and people watch that, and YouTube has sponsors that pay them, and they put them on her page. She makes a killing doing it, actually, not just a little bit. And so that's the crazy thing is, and here's the thing, Ryan, I used to think the same way you did. I thought, man, this is going to hurt Alabama because there's going to be so many more opportunities in California and et cetera. Well, not really. Who was better known than Tua Tagovailoa coming out of? You think the kids in California were better known or Tua was better known?
Yeah, it's no doubt. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
it's the brand.
Right.
So then it really becomes unfair to recruit against Nick Saban.
Absolutely.
It already is unfair. But if they're able to walk in and do what we're sitting here talking about,
yeah,
I don't know what you do. I don't know if it. I mean, they may try to shut us down or move us to the NFL because it's such an unfair advantage.
Well, right. What you're going to see with the name, image, and likeness, and the fact that Alabama is on national television every game, right? Alabama's on television every game. And so the players are going to get their names broadcast all over the place. So the name, image, and likeness is going to benefit Alabama. But you know what else is going to benefit Alabama? A couple, and this is going to sound really, really bad. A couple, if they let us trade within the SEC or transfer within the SEC, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Ole Miss, they're going to become minor leagues for Alabama. You're going to have a guy go there for 1-2 years, show that he can do it, and then he's going to transfer to Alabama. Then you're going to have the backups at Alabama transferring to these other places. So Alabama,
kick us out. They're going to kick us out. Out of the SEC. We're not. I mean, it's there, like Nick Saban said. I mean, this kind of reminds me of that. Do you really want college football to go this direction? Do you really want it to go that direction?
He said that. He said that about this. He said the rich are going to get richer. And what he means by that is the starters at other schools are going to transfer to the Alabamas. So the good and great players are going to transfer in. Bad or young players are going to transfer out. So will Alabama have as much depth? Maybe not as much depth, Brian, but they'll have 1, 2, 3 guys like they had at the wide receiver position. They'll be like that at every position where when the next guy leaves, the guy behind him is going to be a first-round draft pick as well. And you're going to see that. I think that's where it's going to go. And then with the name, image, and likeness, the more these guys work together. And I think Alabama's brilliant. I mean, brilliant move to see it coming. Because I literally told this young lady, because of her background and her major, you know what I told her, Ryan?
What'd you say?
I said, you need to start a business, because she had talked about interviewing Najee Harris and a couple relationships and stuff like that. And I said, someone's going to have to teach these players how to build their social media accounts. You can have a business. You have the creative skill, you have the practical skill, and you know how to connect with your generation that's going to be looking at these football players. And I told her, I said, I wouldn't go after the football players. I said, I would go after the softball and gymnastics and stuff like that. And she was like, and this may sound gross and nasty and all this stuff, but I'm just real. And she said, why? I said, because young ladies who know how to use this, who are attractive, will have more followers than even the knothead football players. And she said, I don't understand that. Why? I said, because knothead men, people ain't going to talk about this, Ron, but this is going to become part of it. They want to follow the pretty girls.
You know I'm a dreamer.
Martin Houston, I feel like I've brainstormed for the last hour. We have not been able to do lunch, so it was almost like we're catching up on the air. I'm not able to do the lunch tomorrow. I got a client that I got to meet with, but I might be able to do lunch Thursday. We're going to brainstorm again. I mean, you've given me my content for tomorrow.
Well, that's what it's here for, man.
That's Martin Houston with Alabama Tradition. We got James Ludeman coming up, Title Talk. 7 until 10. James and all the crew are going to be coming in, and I'm sure they'll be talking about a lot of things that we're talking about. Martin Houston will wake you up tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. right here on Tide 100.9. Big thanks to Bryant for managing everything behind the scenes. We've had fun talking Alabama Crimson Tide football. Let's do it again next time, right here on Alabama Tradition, the past, present, and future of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
Roll Tide.
You know that I've seen too many